Hello everyone, I'm John Evans. Welcome to another episode of One on One. If you watched Avengers Infinity War or Endgame, you've seen Daniel Hargrave in action. You've also seen him if you watched Atomic Blonde or The Hunger Games or one of the dozens of other films and television shows that Daniel has worked on. The UNCW grad is one of the most sought-after stuntmen in the entertainment industry. He's won awards for his work. Daniel was the stunt double for Chris Evans as Captain America in both Infinity War and Endgame, helping to bring that character's amazing abilities to life on the big screen. In reality, Daniel Hargrave is a proud family man, and he's quick to tell you that had it not been for his brother Sam, he might be doing something else for a living. Daniel Hargrave has gone from getting hits as a member of the UNCW baseball team to taking hits as a professional stuntman in some of the biggest movies released in the past 5 or 6 years. Daniel, it is good to have you on the One on One with John Evans podcast.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
When you were at UNCW and playing baseball, was stunt and coordinating part of the thought process, or was baseball first and foremost in your mind?
Baseball was the first and foremost. You know, in the back of my mind, there was thoughts of it because my older brother's been in the business for quite some time, and he was living in LA and he was pursuing the dream. And but you know, baseball was my passion. I wanted to try to take that path, and you know, college was my goal to play through college, and everybody wants to try to play past there. I had the great opportunity to play a couple years in the minor leagues and then came back and coached. So I wanted to keep with the baseball. And then after a few years, just being on that side of the field wasn't quite what I really first saw my future going. So took a step back from it and sort of, looked in the mirror. What do I want to do? And what do I want to be? And kind of took the next step.
How much did your brother have an impact in your career? I know he kind of got you started on the stunt side, but right. Had he not been in it, would you have given it a try?
Probably not, honestly. That was something he was very passionate about. His end goal, which he took the stunt route to get into, ultimately be a director, which he just directed his first feature film. Film has always been sort of his love, his passion. For me, not so much growing up. I didn't really think about the stunt world or being a stunt man was even a way to make a living. And so honestly, without him pioneering the way and kind of bringing me into the world, I don't think I would have chosen this path. But seeing how much joy it brought to him, and just, I guess, the fulfillment, chasing the art of filmmaking, he loves it, and just every aspect of it, it kind of rubbed off on me. And once he sort of brought me into the world and into the business, it became my passion as well. So yeah, I'd say I owe everything to him. I thank him every day, every time I see him, for giving me the chance to get into business and really convincing me, and kind of, now we get to pursue it together.
How far is Hurdle Mills, North Carolina from Los Angeles and Atlanta and the big studios that you work in every day?
It's a long ways. And if you ask my parents, it's even farther. No, we're about 45 minutes from Raleigh-Durham Airport. So we're in the cut. We're between, South Boston, Virginia. So we're near the Virginia line, near Chapel Hill, Durham, that area. So, even going to Wilmington, that was a long ways away. My brother and sister both went to UNC Chapel Hill. So I was the furthest one away, about 3.5 hour drive to Wilmington. My dad made the trip every weekend to see me play, though. But now Los Angeles, they get out there every now and then to see my brother, and my sister lives in Los Angeles now as well. And now that we've got a grandbaby for them, they hop on the plane to Georgia, and it's not too bad, hour flight or hour and a half trip, so not too bad. But yeah, it's a long ways from home for sure.
Well, tell me, I'm a little aside here. I'm about ready to become a grandfather for the first time. So my son and his wife are due in October. So give me some grandparent tips. What do you like when grandparents do, and what should grandparents do more of?
Well, they give me all their advice, and we take most of it and we run with it. But, I always tell them, hey, you had your chance. Let us take our chance, and we'll raise them how we want to raise them. No, but no, they're great. He loves them to death, and just enjoy it. Just enjoy every moment of it.
I'm practicing giving the kids candy and then handing them back. I've already got that move down. Does that work?
My mom tries that a lot. We're pretty we're pretty strict on diet and what we give him. So when she comes, it's kind of a free for all. And he loves it. We hate it, but it's, that's part of it.
We're already starting to buy those little candy chunks that we could hand them underneath the kitchen table and not have to worry about it afterwards.
Oh yeah.
When you were at UNCW, what did you study and what was a possible career path? I know there was baseball, but what was in your mind that if baseball didn't work, what were you going to do before the stunt world came calling?
To be honest, I took it one day at a time. I just studied communication studies, which to me, I always never had an issue writing a research paper or public speaking. I sort of would gear my classes towards that. So as a research side, I enjoyed public speaking and being in front of the crowd. I didn't really have, I'll be honest with you, I took it 1 year at a time. I thought baseball, in reality, I knew I'd probably never make the major leagues, but I wanted to postpone the real world as long as possible. Communications, I thought possibly I'd go back and maybe I was really into the strength and fitness side of it. And I was very good friends with Pat Murphy at the time and Jimmy Mayhew. I really loved those guys and that aspect of the sports side, the strength conditioning and just everything they brought to the table, their mentality. I really loved that. And I contemplated going in and getting a certificate in the strength conditioning to try to stay with the coaching. I did love the coaching. I loved the camaraderie and trying to help guys because even when I played, I taught quite a bit of lessons. I love teaching with the kids and, it's to me, the young guys, they still have the passion. They love it. And it's become less of a grind to them. So I probably would have pursued something in either the education field or the coaching field. My mother was an English teacher and my dad always coached. So I liked that aspect of helping people or some way helping shape the youth guys. So.
Did you know you were still the UNCW career record holder for runs scored and total bases?
I did not.
Yeah, you're still number one in the record books here at UNCW.
I got something. I'm probably up there in strikeouts too. But
actually, you're number 3 in home runs with 39. Number 5. This was I looked at this, and you're number 5 all time for getting hit by a pitch. So was that like some of your earliest stunt training, maybe?
Yeah, I think I was either that or too dumb to get out of the way. If I was in a slump, you got to get on base somehow. That's a freebie from the pitcher. I'll take it.
I thought that was interesting. I was like, well, he's been getting hit for the past 10 or 15 years, so he just started early.
Yeah, you don't learn quick, I guess, and you just keep doing it over and over, and it's helped me in this career. Just too dumb to get out of the way.
Well, you and I have a couple of things in common. Number one, you were drafted by the Philadelphia Phillies in 2008. I grew up as a Phillies fan outside of Philadelphia, so I grew up as a longtime Phillies fan. But you also played for the Williamsport Crosscutters.
I did.
And my wife grew up in Williamsport, Pennsylvania. What did you remember about there?
Oh, man. I remember that they had our fan base was very interesting, very loyal. They loved us. They never booed us. We weren't the greatest team, but I remember I have good memories. I remember living I shacked up with 4 other guys. We had a cool little, it was college roommate type stuff. And we were jam packed in this little house because they were my 4 best buddies on the team. And we had our athletic trainer was a real character. Then we had a guy, his name was Rashad, who was sort of the unofficial team mascot. He was probably my favorite guy. He was a special education kid who worked for this team, and he knew every player's name, where they were from. It was unbelievable. It was almost like Rain Man. And every game, no matter what, you could have a bad game or bad day, and no matter what, this kid was always in the best mood, and it really put a perspective on life. And just, I remember for one instant we were playing, my friend Mark Carver from Wilmington, he was playing up in, he was out of Penn State, the team that played up there, and they smoked us, and he was talking junk to me the whole time. And I think I was 0 for 5 with a couple strikeouts. I was like, what am I doing? And after the game, Rashad came up and was like, Daniel Hargrave, and spitting my stats out from college, and just was like hugging on me. And, I was like, you know what? I just had a bad game, but this kid he finds the positive in life. And honestly, that's probably the memory that sticks out the most from Williamsport, is just that kid who made my experience just even better than it could have been. And yeah, Williamsport, the crowd was great. The fans were great. The people there loved us. I think they cared more about the little league guys than us, but we had it great, and they took such good care of us. There's nothing bad to say about Williamsport.
It is the home of Little League Baseball. It really has a great reputation. I've talked to a lot of athletes, and I've asked them the same question. Was there a day, was there a game, an event where you just said, okay, this part of my life is over, I've got to move on? I guess at that point it would have been going back to coaching at UNCW, but what made you make that decision?
They made it for me, honestly. They released me in spring training. But for me, going, I think spring training, like, coming out of college, everybody's like, I'm good, I'm going to make it. I'll never forget, actually, Coach Scaff. Bless his heart, he's great with words sometimes, but he's very brutally honest. And he told me in my exit meeting, he said, what are your plans after baseball? And I said, I haven't really thought about it. He said, well, you should. You're a talented player, but you're also the kind of guy who can play himself out of a spot very quickly. I would get on a hot streak and I'd hit some home runs. I'd be really hot, but I could also go in a slump every now and then. And I laughed and I was like, oh, that's kind of not the encouragement I expected going on the road, but he was right. He was absolutely right. I had good games, but there's some tough games. And when you're a senior sign and you're not the stud on the team, if you have a couple tough games, it's a business. They put somebody else in. So I learned very quickly the business side of the sport. And then going into spring training, I was 22, 23, and we had some 16-year-old Dominican guys. And you take infield with those guys and hit, and you realize how amazing these kids are. And you're like, you take a deep look at yourself in the mirror and go, maybe I'm not as good as I thought I was. I better either start finding some talent that's maybe not there, dig deeper, or play even harder. And, at that point, I think hustle and playing hard, and, you can try all you want, but it comes down to sheer talent. And I kind of knew deep down. And then spring training, they made it easy. They said, we're going to make a move and release you. And that was it for me. So I took the summer off and didn't know what to do. And then I called the coaches, and they had the volunteer assistant spot open at UNC Wilmington. I said, hey, I'll try it and see what happens.
Mark Scaff just retired after a long career. You played for him and then you coached with him.
Right.
What did you take away from your time with Mark Scaff that you still remember even today?
Not only is I'd say, Coach Scaff is just a great baseball man, a great baseball mind, but he's also a great family man. And that was kind of, honestly, the whole thing with Coach Scaff, Coach Hood, even Coach Jason Howell when he was there. They were such good baseball minds, but even off the field, they were just good men in the community, good family men. And I took that to heart. Like, as a 20-year-old kid, you won't admit it. You don't want to think about down the road, but just being around those guys as mentors, and they're almost a secondary father figure, and they're very helpful. And, Coach, they were just always very encouraging, and they baseball side, they just want to create good young men. And there's a lot of lessons where, punishment runs or certain things, we're getting up early to get in the weight room that have nothing to do with baseball. They're just trying to teach you some discipline in life and, preparing us, because ultimately in 3 or 4 years, none of us are going to be playing ball. We need to take a step in reality and face the real world. And I think their job is preparing you for that just as much as they're preparing for the next game. So, and Coach Scaff, there's some terms like, I'll never, he hounds it on you. Pay attention to detail. And he'd always say it, and you hear it so many times, like, oh my God, not again. But I attribute that to where I am today, paying attention to detail. You get on set and you learn your job, but you also learn every other guy's job on there. You want to know what camera's doing, what special effects is doing, what every department is doing. And once you know what they're doing, you can make their job easier in your job, and also know what to expect. So I think in the back of my mind, I'll steal that comment from him, and I always use it. Just pay attention to detail, pay attention to what's going on, and that'll go a long way in life.
I know you and your brother, when you were 6 and 9 years old, you actually used to make movies on an old VHS camera.
We did.
At some point, so that I'll make that as your very first introduction to film. But think back to your first day doing stunts on a set.
Yeah.
The thought process. What did you look at? What did it seem like? Was it harder than you thought? Was it easier than you thought?
It was actually, to me, funny enough, my first day on a set, I was on the MMA movie called Warrior. Tom Hardy, Frank Grillo, and my brother was doubling Tom Hardy. Oh no, so he was doubling Joel Edgerton, and I was Taft Hartley, so I got in the union, and there was a fight. We're in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and it's about 30 degrees outside. We're outside under a circus tent, and we're doing a MMA fight. So we're in board shorts, nothing else. It's the coldest I've ever been in my life, and I wasn't used to the whole night shoot thing. So we're shooting nights, so it's about 4 a.m. I'm dog tired, and then they yell, "Okay, stunts, you're up." So my brother and I get to fight each other, and the crowd finds out we're brothers, and they're cheering and taunting us. And my brother's a very big showman, so he's playing around, and we do our thing. And for me, going from I'm dog tired, and he'll go over in the corner, he'll take a nap, and he finds a way to sleep, and then he's ready to go on action. He's ready. I'm like, oh my gosh, what's going on? And we do our bit, and that's it. And so the adrenaline dump, and then you go over in the corner, and you're like, that's it. And so I go over, and I'm wondering what's going on. And then the stunt coordinator, who's been in the game for a long time, J.J. Perry, fantastic performer in his day and director. And his initiation is everybody on the team lines up, and they punch you in the shoulder as hard as they can. So 5 a.m, about 15 guys are punching me in the shoulder. I'm like, what is this?
Wow. And
then he says, all right, pack your bags, move to L.A. And at that first, honestly, I was like, I don't know if stunts is my thing. It's kind of crazy, and it wasn't what I expected. So I actually waited about a year. I went and worked with my wife and her family at Performance East in Goldsboro, and before East Carolina Power Sports in Greenville, trying to figure out life. And my brother had another movie, called me up and said, hey, try it one more time and see if you like it. So I came down and worked with him and George on a movie, and it was totally different in my mind. I was prepared for it. I knew what was going on, and I fell in love with it. So it was like a second chance, like a second coming almost. The first time I was still, I'm going to do something in sports, or I'm still going to figure out my own way. Mm-hmm. But he gave me a second chance, and ever since then, I've done it ever since. And
now,
back to the original question, it's a very big, I still get a little bit, but not as much, but you get that adrenaline rush before you go on camera, and as soon as they roll and yell action, there's a little bit of adrenaline. It's kind of a competitive, just like baseball, so.
I went online and I looked at your resume, and I mean, you were on One Tree Hill, TV-wise. One Tree Hill, Criminal Minds, Walking Dead, Hawaii Five-0, and then your film work. Did you get to a point when you said, I've arrived, or when you thought maybe you were accepted? I know early on you have to kind of continue to prove yourself, but was there a specific shoot where you just felt like you're part of this stunt world now and you're accepted for the talents that you have?
Yeah, I think I was still pretty green on a lot of those shows, learning and trying. I got a lot of calls because I looked just like my brother, and he was busy all the time. So coordinators knew his name, and he's won about 6 Taurus Awards for hardest hit and best fight. So he's extremely well known in the industry, and he's very tough, and he's one of those guys, you can't kill him, he gets back up. So they expect, when they see the name Hargrave, the same thing. So early on, I got a lot of calls to do some crazy stunts, and I took it. I ran with it, and I proved that I could get back up. And I'd say on the Hunger Games, the part 2 of the 3rd series, I doubled Liam Hemsworth, and I think that was kind of when I realized I could compete basically at this level, just like baseball. I could compete at this level, do everything that's asked, and then some, and sort of make this a good career. And then on The Accountant was really my breakout. Ben Affleck's normal double had hurt his shoulder, and they called me in last minute to do a couple gags and go through some glass, a big high fall, and some driving. And that was really, to me, really blossomed. And the crew, they expect that high mentality or that high performance, and I was able to give it to them. And then somebody actually, I remember going through, Buster Reeves is the guy's name. He's doubled Batman from all the big Batman. He's one of the biggest British stunt guys in the world. He was there, and he and I went through a glass about 2 stories down and landed on a table and smashed through. And it was pretty gnarly, I'm not going to lie. And somebody said, hey, he really Hargraved that. So they kind of coined that phrase Hargrave. It means you attack it, you make a big crash, and you get back up when you're ready to go again. So that was kind of funny. My brother laughed, and I think that's when he's like, okay, kid, you've made it, and you're not, I don't have to hold your hand anymore,
Well, if you've got a term named after your last name, you have arrived. Let me tell you that. Nobody says you Evans'd it. I mean,
yeah.
You talked about the adrenaline rush. Let's just take that stunt you were just talking about. You go through a pane of glass, 2 floors up. Obviously, you're landing on whatever is down there to keep you safe. How much work goes into something like that? I mean, do you look at it from 4 or 5 different ways, and then finally you just say, okay, let's do it? Take me through that, because that's an adrenaline rush that not too many people share.
Yeah, for going through glass, especially, there's so many moving parts. One, when you're doing a high fall, you have to have your air awareness, know how to fall, how to land. Hopefully, because I was throwing him through, so there's two people going through. You try to get through the object clear, so you don't land on each other, and be able to spot where you're falling and land safely. Then you have glass, which is tempered glass, which is it's a quarter-inch pane of glass, and there's special effects. They have they call it poppers, basically a small pieces of metal that's on a button it's basically a bullet. As soon as they push the button, it'll crack the glass so that we go through, and because otherwise you just bounce off the glass. So you're trusting the special effects guys with basically your life, because they have to pop it at a perfect time as soon as you touch it to break it. Because if they go too early, it's shards of glass. You're going to get sliced. If it's too late, you're going to bounce off it. You're going to get cut anytime you go through glass. You're going to bleed some. It's just a matter of how much. Yeah, and then it's the timing. There's all the timing of the coordinator calling it, making sure all the camera guys catch it. They're framed up, and then there's a point where once you've gone through all the safety measures, you hopefully put your trust in this guy. You just have to kind of put your mouthpiece in or whatever you do, or say your prayer and say, all right, let's do it. And you don't really, you get a little adrenaline rush, but as soon as they do the countdown, 3, 2, 1, go, or 3, 2, 1, action, once they hit that 3, it's like, there's no backing out now. I've got to go. So
what about fear? Is there fear? Have you ever really been scared doing one? I imagine, and tell me if I'm wrong, that you don't do it unless you checked out all the other safety aspects. But does fear come into play? Has it ever come into play in your mind?
Yeah, I'd say if there's no fear, then you're just plain dumb. Like there's always a outcome that's not favorable to us, our health. But most stunts, I'd say 99% of stunts are extremely well calculated. They're thought through. There's safety measures. There's always, if there's a big stunt, there's an ambulance standing by, there's a medic. There's always precautionary steps to go through. We try to take out the risk as much as possible. And then there's that 1% where obviously there's human error or there's elements that can go wrong. But, most of the time, fear, unless very rarely am I scared of a stunt. I'm realistic, like what could go wrong, but you kind of take that and you just put it back in the back of your mind, and you just trudge forward and trust the process and trust your skills. And I'm not scared of heights. I don't love heights, but there's been on the Hunger Games, we were on a line, a quarter-inch tech line, which is about as big as your pinky finger, 500 feet in the air, hanging. And then we're on a high-speed winch where they let us down to the ground at free fall speed. So, yeah, in the back of your mind, you're a little scared because they tell you, look, there's nothing. If something goes wrong, you're trusting the line and all the rigging. But if something goes wrong, normally they'll have some paths. But at 500 feet, they can't really catch you. So they say that. You're like, okay, maybe that's not the smartest thing. But then you say, I trust these guys. They're the best in the business. I trust the equipment. And you just have to channel it and find peace and just, that's your job, just perform.
You're a professional. You've done this for a while, and
right.
and you're one of the most highly regarded stuntmen in the industry. But you're also a human being. So
right.
Is there any more of the starstruck? Do you still get that at any point in time?
I think after being on set so long and working with people, yeah, every now and then there's some directors or some actors where you idolize them as a child. I think Kurt Russell, meeting him because my dad loved him, Tombstone, all the classics. Then you meet him on set. It's cool to shake their hand and they speak to you as they're not treating you like, for us they're in reality they're just people. But then when you see them, they're amazing. But when they see you on set, they don't know you from anybody. They just treat you like anybody else, and it's kind of cool to see that they separate. They're just, I'd say 95% of everybody I've worked with is just extremely down-to-earth, kind, genuinely good person. There's a few guys who, a lot of it honestly is also what the media makes their persona and what they're allowed to get away with. They're still good people, but when you have people in your face all the time or asking you for autographs, I can see how, I've never had that problem, but it could be somewhat annoying, I'm sure. So, but everybody has a bad day too. You just got to take it. But yeah, I guess being around it so much, is the business side of it, you don't get starstruck as much, but it's still fun to see them. And when you see them on set, some of these guys, the Chris Evans, just the whole cast of Avengers, you see them on set and you've watched all these movies and you see them perform and they're so good at their craft, and to see them act, and maybe it's them ad-libbing or just delivering their dialogue, it's really something special to see them. And there's a lot of guys who can do a lot of their own stunts. Safety-wise, we're in there, but to see them, yeah, I wouldn't call it starstruck, but I guess what's the word I would, it's still not awe, but just respect for them and their craft and seeing how talented they are.
Well, when a guy like Chris Evans posts Sam and Daniel Hargrave are legends, that's pretty high praise right there. And that video that I spotted on Twitter that day of you and your brother actually training him in a fight scene, you're helping to perfect and make this movie as realistic as it can be.
Right. Yeah, Chris, he's very courteous to say that and very nice. He's amazing. He's one, honestly, he almost makes you mad as a stunt performer because he's so talented, and we train for weeks. We'll learn a fight, and we'll practice for 2 weeks or something to rehearse it so we know dialed in everywhere we need to be, where camera's going to be. Most of the time, we teach him on the day. Like, he shows up, he says, let me see it. You show him once, he's like, okay, let's shoot it. And you're like, wait, don't you want to see it again? He said, no, I got it. He just learns so fast.
Wow.
And he has a background in some dance, so the rhythm, he counts it. But, yeah, you're like, it took me a week to learn this, and this is my job. And he learns it one time, and he sells it. But in a way, he gives that praise. My brother has doubled him in many movies. I've doubled him now, two full movies and half of another. So we have helped him, in a way, bring that character to life. I'd give it more to my brother than me. I've sort of tailed in on the back end. The style has already been created. I just sort of took over what Sam created. But there's a big difference from the first Captain America to Avengers, the style, the fighting style, which my brother, he's extremely talented martial artist and what he can do. And he sort of really amped up what Captain America does and the style. And he really, to me, my brother is Captain America. Chris is the acting double, we call it. But Sam is just so talented in what he's done. And so for me, there's a little pressure in the last 2 movies to try to take that over that role and continue it, because you don't want people to say on the last one, oh, this guy's not very good or something. So, I'm extra hours in the morning training or doing stuff. If it's a move that I'm not great at, I'm secretly training it so I'm good when people see me do it. I don't want to show up and not be the best,
I saw this piece of video where you were actually running, and I think it was the battle for Infinity War, where you were actually running. Captain America was running ahead of everybody else, but you were actually tethered to a rig. Explain how that all worked.
Yeah, it was the Battle of Wakanda, and the opening scene where Black Panther and Captain America, they lead the battle charge, and you see them running at superhuman speed. Black Panther and Captain America starts to overtake him, and just knowing that I am not superhuman fast, we decided to concoct a rig, and our rigging stunt riggers, Michael Huggins, Ralph Koch, and Billy Mortz was 3 of the main guys. They sort of came up with this idea, because normally in that situation you would use what's called a magic carpet, which it is on a high-speed winch will pull an actual piece of carpet or a clear piece of Lexan or something, pulling you faster than you can run, and then you just will run on top of that. So it's kind of double speed. And where we were shooting was the old Chattahoochee Horse Equestrian Eventing Center. So we were all through fields and down a hill, and that was not very conducive for the magic carpet. So they designed this rig, and they use what's called a high line. So there's a line about 20 feet in the air spanning about 200 feet from 2 cranes, and that was used to suspend my weight, and it had about 50% of my weight. I had some weight on my feet, and then there was a high-speed winch with a line that connected to my chest, to my harness, and that was motivating me. I started, we gradually worked into the speed, but at the final filming stage, we were going about 22 miles an hour. So
how difficult was that to keep your balance? I mean, I know it's trying to help you, but it had to be incredibly difficult, number one, to be going that fast, but number 2, to maintain your balance.
Yeah, it was pretty difficult. I mean, we had to do some rehearsals. I mean, it's very hard because in that scene, I was actually, I was being Captain America. They put the dots on my face for face replacement. So the biggest thing is to try to not make that, oh gosh, face, I'm going to fall down. So you try to keep somewhat of a face that they can paint his face onto. And also just keeping your balance, because as the winch, there was a move, so they would start it. I'd start jogging, then gradually get up to speed. I had about a 20 feet start to get up to speed, and then it would kick in, and I'd be going full speed. So if you weren't exactly in the right step or right stride, it could pull you off balance. And that actually happened on about the 7th take. I was running, and I just lost my footing. I tried to overstride, and it pulled me, and I pulled my hamstring, and as I felt my hamstring pop, I kind of took a half stride, and then the winch pulled me down, and I face planted in the grass. I'm getting dragged at 22 miles an hour, face planted. I'm passing all these background artists, and our stunt guys are running, looking at me like, what the heck is going on? And I'm just I'm there enjoying the ride. I'm just getting dragged, trying not to break anything. And it was pretty funny. It was actually probably one of the, more amusing moments of the shoot. Just, here goes Captain America being dragged face first through the mud and muck.
But
Not
it's
very
what
heroic.
it's what they don't see, right? It's what they don't see in the final product to get there. You did so many of the Marvel movies and double for Chris Evans as Captain America for so many of them. What are some of your best memories of all of the movies that you've done? You did several with him, but you also did, I guess, Ant-Man. You did Thor Ragnarok. What are some of your best memories?
They were all fantastic to work for. The crew, being here in Georgia, the crew that's really developed here is fantastic. And just Marvel and Disney in itself, they treat you very fairly. It's a good work environment. And I'd say my best memories are, obviously Infinity War, being the full-time Captain America double. But Avengers Endgame was probably my best memories because there's some moments in there. By far the best moment of my career and probably any time on film was the Captain America versus Captain America scene where I got to fight my brother who, he was the original Captain America double. And then now he's directing. He was in that scene, the stunt coordinator, second year director, and stunt double. So he was working. That's a big payload. And I was the other Captain America. And we got to fight. And amazingly enough, the directors, he sort of gave his vision because he's put so much work into the Captain America character. He kind of wanted to send it out on a high note. And he was in the boardrooms helping them design the set to make sure there was some different levels where we could do a big fall and smash through some glass, fall down some stairs. And just getting to fight him, I mean, he's one of the best in the business, and he's my best friend. So getting to fight him on camera, I'll never be able to do that again. And we've never been able to fight each other on camera, believe it or not. So, it kind of was just a surreal moment. And my dad came down. He's there on stage watching his two sons just go at it. And one time he's like, I remember he said, "You guys are idiots," because there's a scene where I'm tackling Sam through the glass. We go out this window and then we're falling downstairs and just watching it happen. He's like, there's my boys just clowning around.
And what kind of reaction did you get? Were any of the stars around that day? It was a special time for you. And did Chris know how special it was for you? Did any of the other guys know how special it was?
Chris was not there while we were doing some of the stair falls, but he was with us, I'd say, pretty much every other day in the fight. And I think it was kind of a cool moment for everybody because he's worked with my brother on 4 or 5 films now, and I've doubled him for a couple. So being there with the two of us, and he would play one character per day. So first day he was the flashback Captain America, who I was doubling. So he would have to learn all the choreography on that side, and I would be his double, talking to him, teaching him, and we'd fight my brother. And then the next day he would come in, and there'd be a slight makeup change. He would be the new Captain America who traveled back in time. So who my brother was doubling. So he'd be learning from him and fighting me. It was kind of, he's a remarkable just athlete and overall specimen because, he comes in and to learn that choreography in one day and then put it on camera and make it look amazing is something special. But I do think, there was kind of a magical moment there with the three of us dressed up, but we've all been sort of doing it for a while. And it was, usually it's very business-like serious, but we were having a good time, and my brother likes to play some music between takes. And for us, it was just, let's party, let's send this out on a high note. And it was, just a kind of a surreal moment.
Your best fight, I know it's special for you, but you won an award with your brother for the fight on Atomic Blonde, I guess, in the stairwell.
Yes.
So which one's better? Or can you grade them, or do you grade them?
I'd say the Atomic Blonde fight is a little more down and dirty, gritty, just 3 folks just going at it. It's do or die, and somebody's got to get out of here. And the Broughton character, Charlize, brought to life was just so brutal, really, and just the killings. And, obviously we had an rated R rating so we could have some blood and show a little more violence. But I think the Captain America fight, we have a very good chance to hopefully bring home another World Taurus Award for Best Fight. I think there's some great choreography, and they actually cut out about 30 seconds of the fight. There's whole other moments, but in that fight, we tried to include some cool choreography, some good moves, some big wrecks going through glass, stairs, just, hopefully get the crowd to go, oh my God, or whoa, get you on the edge of your seat and you see it happening. Like, how do these guys live through it? And that's what we want to do to kind of stir the pot a little bit. But I'd say they're both, pretty dynamic fights, but I almost think Atomic Blonde may be, as far as the fight realism, probably a little more brutal, but I don't
And
know. Hopefully when people vote, they go for the Avengers one.
what makes it, when you watched the Atomic Blonde fight, what made it, okay, that's good, I've got it, great take?
I'd say, with her character, Charlize did about 99% of it. Her stunt double, Monique Ganderton, did some of the falls down the stairs, but Charlize was so in it every scene and every take, and she was just brutal. But the take where Dave Leitch, who was directing, he just directed Hobbs and Shaw and John Wick as well. But when usually he'd move on as if the pure exhaustion between the two stunt guys or her, and just seeing it look real. And there was a few takes where there might be a miss on one punch or something, so we'd go strive for perfection. And there was a couple takes he said, all right, great, we got it. And Charlize would say, no, let's go again, I can do better, which is very rare to see an actor or an actress go in there and want to do more physical activity. But she was fantastic.
Do you respect actors who do their own stunts?
I do. There's a lot who say they do their own stunts, who do none of it. And there's a lot of guys who actually do a vast majority of the work. But, what it comes down to is, for production, they want their actors to do as much as possible, but it's an insurance thing where if they're getting hurt, if you're not seeing their face, put the stunt double in, or if perhaps the stunt double is more athletic, they can do a certain move better. But it comes down to safety and be able to keep filming, because if the actor gets hurt trying to do something that's not fantastic, then if production shut down for a couple of weeks, then it's not a good financial business decision.
Can you watch a movie as a paying customer, or when you see a stunt go on, do you choreograph that in your mind, or can you literally sit back and watch a Bond movie or watch a Star Wars and see it as entertainment without picking every stunt apart?
I say the first time I watch a movie, I try to watch it as just a regular viewer and see and be wowed by the performance. And you try not to, because if you pay attention too closely or wonder how they did, you can get lost and not enjoy the moment. I'd say probably one of my most favorite recent movies was the new, James Bond. They're always good. And then, there's just so many good movies we watched lately. I watched Aquaman the other day. Our friends did all the choreography and the fights for that. So I watched it on the plane to Los Angeles, and you just like, oh my God, it was so enjoyable. And then I actually watched it a second time to go back and watch how they do this. And you try to figure out, for me, it's almost, a learning session. It's like watching game film for any sports. You go back and watch, how did that coordinator design this, or how did that performer perform that stunt? So the first time I try to watch it as just a consumer, and then I go back and I'll watch it and kind of analyze it. And, every now and then you steal a trick or two from their playbook and try to slide it into your choreography.
Imitation is the best form of flattery.
Exactly,
in your business, everything, right?
Exactly.
Who would you like to work with that you haven't had the chance to yet?
I feel like I've worked with so many people in this business already. I don't have anybody specific, to be honest with you. I had a chance to work on the Quentin Tarantino Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I actually decided it was between that movie and John Wick 3, and I went and worked on John Wick 3 because New York was a little time zone. It made more sense for the family. It would have been great to work for Quentin Tarantino. I've heard great things about him, and that would have been a good opportunity. But I don't really have anybody on my bucket list. I take it as they come, and I live in the moment and enjoy who I'm working with at the time. Yeah.
You mentioned good for the family. What's it like being a dad? Did being a dad and Hendrix arriving with you and Candace, did that change your mindset toward jobs you take, or in the back of your mind you're thinking there's a young life who depends on me that wasn't 6, 8, 10 months ago?
Yeah. I'd say being a dad. Being a dad's been the best. Besides getting married, and being a dad is probably the best thing that's ever happened to me. And we do try to make all our decisions based around family. I've had many opportunities to go do different shows, but whether if they can't go with me, we try to never be apart more than 2 weeks. You just sometimes that messes up the flow. You kind of want to keep what's going on, keep it going. I had a chance to go work with my brother on his movie he just directed. He went to India and Thailand and a couple other places in Bangladesh, which I wasn't going to go. One, I wouldn't be able to see my kid. I'd have missed his first steps. And, movies come and go, but seeing their first steps or seeing the first words, to me, that's more important. In 30, 40 years, nobody's going to remember what movies I worked on, but my son hopefully will remember if I was there and, involved in his life. So for me, it's changed. It's put things in perspective. So yeah, it's changed a little bit. We still try to work hard and chase the dream and get any jobs we can, but family is always in the foremost part of my thinking.
Doesn't Candace do some stunt work as well?
Yeah, she does. Yeah, she's doubled quite a few characters. She's worked on quite a few Marvel shows as well. She does a lot of stunt driving, and she's tough, man. I remember last year on MacGyver, I was coordinating, and she was doubling one of the lead actresses, and she was over in the corner. Hendrix was probably, I don't know, 5 months at the time, 6 months, and she was still breastfeeding, or still is breastfeeding. But she was over in the corner in her wig and her outfit, and she's with her breast pump over in the corner pumping, and we're setting up a fight. I have somebody else, standing in. We're designing the fight, setting up camera, and I said, all right, Candace, come on. She puts her pump away, comes in, does a fight, and we slam her through a breakaway table. I mean, it was a pretty nasty fall. She hits. I yell, cut. We got the shot. She goes back, starts keep pumping, and then it's just, the life of a working mom. It's crazy. But everybody thought they're like, oh, she's crazy. She's tougher than you. So she's made quite a name for herself in the business already. Is
it difficult then? I mean, from that aspect, you're working with an actress, but you're worried about your wife. I'd imagine there's got to be a little bit of that in there.
Yeah, you kind of have to separate it. I'm not going to put her in a situation where I feel like she's going to be in danger, or if something happens or she can't go home and take care of our son. So, we have the conversation beforehand. This is what's going to happen. This is the job. And, certain, even other stunt coordinators or other shows call, there's always that thought of, make sure safety, or there's always a good chance I get out of this in good health. But, at the same time, when she's there on contract and she's doubling, she's so professional, and it's showtime, I'm not going to take it easy on her just because she's my wife or because that's the mother of my child. You kind of have to go in and perform, and she knows that. So
what's next for?
It's kind of great. Yeah, I might actually be a little more tough on her just because she's my wife.
What's next for not just you, but I know Sam, you said directed his first film. What's next for him? What's he working on, and what's next for you?
Sam, yeah, he just directed his first. I think it's pretty amazing. A pretty large budget Netflix show with Chris Hemsworth was the lead actor. Joe Russo from the Russo brothers, who directed Endgame, they wrote it and were part of the producing company. Right now he's in post-production still. He's turned over his first draft of the movie. He's still working on that, and they're hoping for a early 2020 release, possibly a little bit of theatrical release, but more than likely straight to Netflix. And he's already in meetings, hoping, trying to line up the next show. He's chomping at the bit, ready for the next one. And he's, right now he's hot. He's the name is hot. He's trying to strike while the iron's hot. Mm-hmm. And for me, I'm currently stunt coordinating and second unit directing on the TV show MacGyver for CBS. And this runs as of now, till the end of November. And there's a chance they get picked up for a few more episodes, which could take us into the spring. But I've been doing some meetings and, bouncing around. I'd love to, hopefully everything works out where when Sam directs his next movie, I'll stunt coordinate and second unit direct for him, because I have not coordinated for him yet while he's the boss. I like working under him, but it'd be fun to kind of work together and keep the family going. But
well, there's the Russo brothers, and then who knows, the Hargrave brothers could be the next big name in brothers in movie making.
That's right. I mean, this business, stunt business and the film business, there's a lot of nepotism. There's a lot of brothers and families in it, especially in the stunt world. There's a ton of big names, the Jack and Andy Gill, they're legends of it, and the Dashnoff family. There's just a ton of families who dad starts it, the kids start, and then all the brothers. So yeah, I love it. And right now we kind of have the Hargrave family in the business, and ideally that'll be the next show we get together, but it's still early in the planning stage.
We'd love to get you back here to Wilmington for a visit, to bring the family back here to the beach. How about it?
Yeah, we'd love to get down there. We haven't been home quite as much as we'd like to. My family's in North Carolina still, and my wife's family, but we try to get down there, a couple times a year. But we'd love to get to Wilmington. We miss it, and hopefully maybe they'll change or talk to who needs to be in charge there. Try to work on this film incentive. I know they have a great infrastructure and the stages there. We'd love to get some shows back there. So. Yeah,
we'd love to have you back here. Again, Daniel, I appreciate you taking the time, and it's great that your success has become what it is, and you've made such a name for yourself, and we wish you all the best.
Absolutely, man. It's an honor to be on here, and I miss you guys, miss Wilmington, and anything else we can do to help, just let us know.
A big thank you to Daniel Hargrave for sparing some of his very valuable time and sitting down for this week's podcast interview. In fact, I need to give him a special shout out. We had some technical snafus during the first night we talked, and he was kind enough to let me call back and complete the interview and talk about some of the other things that I hope you really enjoyed. Now keep an eye out for Daniel's name on the credits of MacGyver as he continues to stunt coordinate and even direct the second unit on that CBS show. And his brother Sam's first feature-length film called DACA, starring Chris Hemsworth, should be released sometime soon on Netflix. Now, before we go, I'd like to ask a favor. Please subscribe to the One-on-One with John Evans podcast on whatever podcast app that you use. And if you would be so kind, leave us a rating or a review. The more of those that we get, the higher we'll be listed on all of the podcast sites. I'm John Evans. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of One-on-One.